This
No,
is
you got this.
maximizing macOS insider tips for efficient Mac administration. Hopefully there's some things in here you'll take away.
Yes, and we've had so many tips that we actually had to pull several slides last night in order to make sure that we would meet the 75-minute limit. But we'll be sure to share some with you later. So if you see something that was missing that you love, be sure and let us know about it or put it in the Google Doc for this session.
The feedback, yeah. So as I said, I'm Nate Felton. I'm a senior client platform engineer at Flywire. I'm based out of Rochester, New York, 100% remote. Previous talks, I was employed by the Rochester Institute of Technology. You can find me most places at N8Felton, or n8felton.wordpress.com is my seldom updated blog. But sometimes I feel like I put something good out there. So.
I'm Dennis Wurster. I'm the Associate Director of Computing at the Eastman School of Music, also in Rochester, New York. And I've got a Linktree link there. And if you click on the fun QR code there, it also takes you to the Linktree.
It's been a tradition of mine to share a recent photo of my daughter when I present at PSU Mac so that it embarrasses her later when she finds it on YouTube. It's been 5 years since I presented at PSU Mac, so there's some quick updates. These are where we started, and she quickly grows up. Swimming with a dolphin.
That's pretty cool.
Recent birthday. Ice skating. And my stepson recently graduated from high school, and this is about the most serious photo I could get out of them. So that's what we got. And then, of course, I wouldn't be able to be here today without my partner in crime. So quick thanks to Kim for letting me be able to be here while she's home dealing with the family. So thank you to her.
All right, let's get started.
All right. The goal of this session is to discuss some tips, tricks, and tools that many of us may know exist, but maybe never took the time to look at and investigate. The hope is that some of you will be able to improve your day-to-day efficiency as a Mac admin using some of these time-saving tips and tricks and tools. So with that, we're going to spend the next 45 minutes talking about Vim. That is, of course, a joke. But I do have two quick things that I actually do use in Vim daily. There's two commands you can run in Vim. A lot of us deal withplists, which is just XML, and a lot of us deal with JSON, which has a lot of quotations. So these two commands allow you to change inner tag and change inner quotes. At least that's what I call them. So as a quick example here, I've got a monkey package info I open. I do a quick 8J to jump down to that testing line there, and I do a CIT, and it throws me in between the tags, deletes testing, and allows me to quickly type production. So when you have to do this a bunch, and obviously I do it kind of slow here, but if you kind of get used to it, it really does improve how fast you can update XML or plists in Vim. And then likewise, there's a JSON equivalent. So here I just made a quick banana product. I copy it over so we can sell a cherry. And we got to change the values. So I open it up in Vim. I go to banana, say CI quote, deletes banana, puts in cherry. I go down to the description, CI quote, deletes all of it, lets me type out a new one. So again, it's very slow for the presentation, but once you get used to it, it really does improve your efficiency if you are a Vim user.
So one of the things that I have to do in my job is make contact with a lot of people and then wait for them to get back to me about when I can talk to them again. And that's annoying and takes a lot of time, what I call meta meeting time. One thing that we have done in my department is make use of a calendaring tool. Originally, we used calendly.com, and subsequent to that, we've used Microsoft Bookings. And the deal with these is you don't have to have that conversation. These tools look at your calendar or calendars, figure out when you're not busy, and then offer those time slots to others. And you get a link that looks like this. You can generate a page, and you can generate these sort of presets that you have. So I can direct people to this page. This is my Calendly page. And then people can select what kind of meeting they want to have with me, and then they can pick what day that they want to have it on, and then which time slot. I never have to be involved in this conversation. This tool already knows everything it needs to know about my schedule, And I'm trying to make sure that I keep my calendar up to date. This lets them select what they want to select and select a time slot for it. Once they pick something and commit to it, then a notification pops up for me, and I say, okay, great. So on Wednesday at 2 p.m., I've got a meeting with so-and-so, and we're going to talk about blah, and that allows me more time to work on other things rather than trying to wrangle meeting times and meeting days. A lot of times, this is a hard sell to management. Why do I have to spend money on this tool? Why do we have to configure this? I tell them, oh, well, Fortune 10 companies do the exact same thing when you go to the mall and have to schedule with them. If you go to any Apple store, the first thing they ask you when you walk in the door is, oh, did you have an appointment today? And they do the same thing. Pick a day, pick a time, and be there, and you can talk with them. And this is the same idea. Sometimes when companies hear that the big guys are doing this, then they want to emulate that, and sometimes that unlocks funds that might not otherwise be available. So not only just a tip, but some strategy about how to implement it as well.
All right. So before we begin, a good number of the following tips involve screenshots on your clipboard, but sending these screenshots to your clipboard is not the default in macOS. So there's a quick thing you can do. If you press Shift-Command-5 on your laptop, you should get this cool little bar at the bottom that gives you some additional options for taking screenshots. I recommend switching this to clipboard, and a lot of my efficiencies come from it going straight to the clipboard and not to a stack on my desktop that is hard to get to. So that's a quick heads up on that one.
A screenshot 37. All the extra icons you have there,
yes.
Cluttering things up. If you're lucky, they might go into a stack.
So shortcuts. There's a few of these in here. We had to actually take some out. You'll see throughout some of the slides we have QR codes. A lot of things have QR codes nowadays. A lot of phones have it easier to open QR codes. Are you raising your hand? Yeah. Oh, hold on.
There's a question. This will be good.
All right, about the previous slide for the the screenshots. There's another way to do this without even changing that folder.
Okay.
If you do Command-Control-Shift-4, it automatically puts it in your clipboard.
Oh,
That's
so
true.
you can keep a save file in case you actually need to save them, and then.
Thank you for that tip. I will get to that part though.
Oh, okay.
Just leave it there for right now.
Okay.
That's good.
So this one, generate a QR code as a quick Easter egg. That QR code will take you to this shortcut if you want it to. There are many ways to make QR codes, especially using websites, but there are built-in alternatives to macOS that makes this painless and keeps the data local to your machine. Sometimes you might submit a URL to the website to generate the QR code, and you have no idea where it goes after that kind of thing. One of my tips is, there's multiple ways to do this as well, but if you go into the details and you can pin in the menu bar, and what that'll do is it'll actually make it a little more accessible. So you can kind of go right up to your menu bar and say generate QR code from clipboard. So all of these have that option, or at least I recommend enabling this for these. So to this gentleman's point, I have a shortcut that if the screenshot is on my clipboard, I can now go up and say save to downloads, so that my, one less key at least, but that way if I do happen to need an actual PNG of the screenshot, this instantly puts it in my downloads, which is already a mess, but at least it's not my desktop kind of thing. So, and it just saves it as the current date, so that you don't get screenshot 1, 2, 10, 50, whatever. Another one, I use this all the time, is OCR screenshot. So I like to use Command-Shift-4 and select just text that someone sent me a screenshot via an email or Slack or something, and I just select that text. Works great for serial numbers,
Yep.
license keys, things like that. So you just select that and do this, and it puts the text right back on your clipboard for you. So it's very efficient to not have to try and read it. Change case. This one comes in handy sometimes too. I don't use this one nearly as much as the others, but it does help. One of my personal annoyances is UUIDs are actually supposed to be lowercase characters. The A through F are supposed to be lowercase based on the standard. So once you go through this, it'll give you an extra prompt that'll actually let you pick which case you want to switch your text on the clipboard to.
Right.
So,
And if you want to make a SpongeBob meme, you got the one at the bottom there.
makes it easy for you.
All right, so one of the other things that I started doing was I've always wanted to have a Stream Deck because a Stream Deck, who's familiar with Stream Deck? Okay, about almost half of you. A Stream Deck is a little device that lives on your desk, and it has a grid of buttons that each one of the buttons is a little OLED display, and it's completely customizable. So this is the Stream Deck XL that has lots and lots of buttons. And I have set these to places I commonly go. So instead of browser bookmarks, now a lot of the tools that I use day to day are generally browser based, but not all of them. And I've also written some scripts, and I've had links to tools that we use internally that are apps that allow me to do things like, go to our HR system at work so I can make sure to put in approve the time for our hourly employees. Go to our tooling for networking, or to our local Jira service desk, or go to Intune and Jamf, our different implementations for those things. All at the touch of a button, and I can get to those tremendously easily. Going to our tool for internal project management, or our reporting tools so I can see what our server loads look like recently. Going to our support tools, going to the Apple Education price list at the click of a button rather than trying to remember where these things are. It's admittedly a indulgence to buy, but it is something that brings me joy every time I use it, so I wanted to make sure I talked about it. And I've got a couple of examples of how I've used this. I wrote a simple little script that goes and opens my terminal and fetches the weather, which is, again, frivolous, but mildly informational.
Brings joy.
And I've also built a mail template in Outlook. I have to make contact with our U of R tech store in order to get quotes for equipment. But I got tired of having to type in the preamble, what I actually want, the closing, put a subject line in, and send it. I said, how can I improve this and make this more efficient? So I built a template that includes everything except for what I actually need. And I saved that, and then I assigned that to a Stream Deck button. So now I hit the button, it immediately pops up a window, it puts my cursor on the right line, I type in what I want, I fill in the subject line, and I click send. And I can get back to my train of thought of what else I needed to get done this day. You can do lots of other things with buttons, including booking conference rooms and setting up Zoom meetings, the price list thing that I talked about, the Slack channels that you care about the most, or being able to DM or direct message a particular person on your team or others that you want to make contact with. And we have a rotating password portal at the U of R that changes passwords every day, so I need to go to that quite often. So having one-click access to that is just one fewer thing. I can hit that button and drink my morning beverage at the same time.
All right, our next topic is Slack. Sorry, hand up in the back. Go ahead. Yeah.
Box, we'll get the box over to you.
Where are we going?
Oh boy, here we go.
Oh,
Thank you.
That was still pretty good, yeah.
Is this? Yeah, there we go. Just wanted to say, Stream Deck is quite expensive. There's another thing, if you have an old device, iPhone, Android, Touch Portal.
Okay.
It is kind of a ripoff of Stream Deck, but
Sure.
there's a free version, and then for
An
like
homage,
$5.
to Stream Deck.
Yes, yeah. So I use that.
Okay.
Very similar thing, but really nice, cheap alternative.
Right.
Doesn't have the nice physical buttons, but
Yes.
it's not bad.
Let me make this clear. If I hadn't gotten a ridiculous bargain on that unit, I would not have one. But they also make several different versions that have several different amounts of buttons, so several different price points to choose from.
that was
That was a great toss, though. Caught it on the laptop. That's impressive. I haven't seen that before.
Oh,
Kelly.
there we go. Yeah. There's a new, within the last month, I think, Stream Deck called the Stream Deck Neo.
Yes.
And it's the smaller buttons. It's USB-C. The original ones are USB-A and a
It is.
hardwired cable. And it's like $99.
Okay.
So, and you can get it at Target. It's pretty nice.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Very
Thank
nice. See, this is why I come to these things. All right, tell us about Slack.
right. So if you're not aware, there's a huge Slack instance that is frankly part of the reason I'm part of the Mac admins community today. I mean, it was the IRC before that, but like the general communication that this community has. And now that, thank you to the Mac Admins Foundation for helping cover that bill now, because I don't know what I would do if this Slack instance went away. So with that, a lot of us are in there, and I'm hoping some of these tips will help you use Slack a little more efficiently. One of the things I constantly hear about Slack is how overwhelming all of the channels are. And I don't disagree. I know it's, especially if you end up in a few of them, there's new ones every year for like the new macOS version and stuff like that. So one of my recommendations is to create custom sections. And essentially what you can do with that is, create section. You can give it a name. You can give it a cool little custom emoji, anything from the Slack instance. So in this case, I made one for macOS. I made one for Penn State, because if you don't know, there's actually a channel for every room here, for every session, so you guys can talk amongst yourselves kind of thing.
Heckle the presenters.
Yes, heckle.
Without them seeing it.
First thing I quit was Slack before I started. So quick example of that. Hey, look, there they are. So then once you have the sections, you can right-click and manage and edit all sections. If this is your first time creating sections, I recommend doing it this way, because you can click a bunch of checkboxes and move them all at once. Otherwise, you can just kind of drag
onesie-twosie
channels into sections. So here I got the PSU Mac channels, and I'm going to put them in the PSU Mac section. Likewise, there's a macOS and a macOS Sonoma channel, so I'm putting those in the macOS section. So now you've got this. So at this point, the list of channels we've joined together is actually making the list longer. So it's not helping with what we're trying to solve. So the next part of this is you can actually change each section to show unreads only. Or likewise, you can actually change the global preferences. So in here, you can say all sections show only unreads, and then you can actually go back to specific sections if you want to and like change those options to always show or only unread. So this is what it looks like when you have everything unread. It's nice and quiet, and then, oh, look, a couple of messages came in a select few channels, and now you only have to focus on those two. And then I did get the question of, well, how do I get to my channel if it's hidden from me? Well, at any time you can kind of create or click on a section, and it'll show you all of the channels that are in that section, is one of the ways. And then pro tip, clear all. If you happen to be at a conference for a week and you come back and you have a whole bunch of messages that you have no interest in reading, you can hit Shift Escape and clear them all. As a friend of mine says, if it was important, they'll send it again. So that's a quick tip. It does give you a warning unless you check the checkbox to not warn you. And if you do it, there is actually an undo. So if you accidentally do it, you can undo it as well. So there's a whole bunch of unread messages, and with a quick keyboard shortcut, they're all gone. Sections. So keyboard navigation, this one I highly recommend if you press Command/, which is the question mark key. It'll actually give you a thing of all the keyboard shortcuts that you can use within Slack. It scrolls for quite a bit. I am a heavy keyboard user, so these are all great for me. But there is one, I believe two, that I want to point out real quick. Open conversations. So again, if you have a whole bunch of things hidden, I actually hit Command-K, and it lets you search all of the channels that are in the Slack instance. And one of the cool things is it kind of prioritizes the ones that you're already in towards the top. And then if you're not in the channel, it actually will show you the channel names and show you that like you're not a member, so that you can still kind of find them. But for me, it's a lot faster to kind of switch between channels using Command-K. Let's see. Open new window. This is a can I get down just a hair? I'm hearing feedback. Open a new window is fairly new to the Slack client. If you command-click on things like threads, notes, files, images, etc., you can actually pop out new windows for those things. You can keep an eye on certain threads more closely if you want to, without having to go back and find them. In the past, I've heard a lot of people actually open Slack in the web browser in multiple tabs and like have multiple tabs that are different channels and stuff. So now this is if you're a actual client user, this is now something you can do within the client. And Jack is back.
So one of the other things that we implemented on my team in order to preserve our weekend is the concept of read-only Friday. And read-only Friday is the day that you don't make changes to production equipment or dev equipment. Instead, we find other things to do in order to preserve our weekend for doing weekend things and not for doing work. So there are some advantages to this, but you can do other things on Friday. You know, that's 20% of your work week. So there are lots of other things that people can be done, including the stuff that we never seem to have time for. This is a great way to carve out time for those things that we all wish we were doing, but never seem to get around to. The number one thing that I have my team do is documenting. Either updating something that's already existing, reformatting something, improving it in some way that makes it more beneficial for the rest of the team. If there's any miscellaneous paperwork that we need to get done, or if we need to have one-on-ones, Fridays can be a really good day for that. You can review your past week and plan for the upcoming week with your team. You can work on things like professional development. Remember those certifications that you keep talking about wanting to get. If you could carve out time to get that done, this is a great way to do it. And knowing that you're not necessarily going to have to be working the weekend makes it all the sweeter. If you have a shared agenda with your team for your next upcoming team meeting, it's a great time to say, oh yeah, there was the thing that I want to put on the agenda, and pop into that and add that to there. You can, if you have equipment that is not behaving the way it should, but but seems to be intermittent, that's a great day for putting that on the bench and taking a closer look. Or if it's time to take some older equipment off to e-waste, then it's a great time to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed related to that process. And if you need to tidy up your workbench, if there's cables everywhere, Friday is a great way to do that. Just make everything nice and clean so that you've got a great place to start the next week. So the remaining thing is one that my team is getting started with, is making sure that the equipment is where the inventory database thinks it is. Where I work, we have student workers as well, and if there are student workers that need something to do, you can hand them a set of keys and give them a list of half a dozen things and say, hey, go make sure that this is where it is, and check them off and bring it back to me.
All right. Google Chrome site search shortcuts.
Now, what is a site search?
What is a site search? So it allows you to more quickly search direct websites as opposed to having to go to Google first. Kind of ironic that it's in the Google Chrome browser, but whatever. I use this a lot with a few things. I'll give you a few examples in a second, but Jira is the big one for me. I constantly get people that send me just the issue number in Jira, and I hate using the search that's in the Jira window. Plus, this is just simply faster. So what happens is when you add this, when you type Jira, the shortcut in your bar, and hit tab or space, and then paste the Jira issue number, what it does is it appends that issue number to the %S that you see there to the end, so that it opens that page directly. So to give you kind of here's an example. You'll see I type in Jira, hit space, put in an issue code, press enter. It takes me straight to that issue. In this case, it's to create resources to crush the rebels. And then you're good and done. And I got a hand up here.
The search engine thing in Chrome massively.
Robert let us know that he really appreciates this.
Okay, yeah, so the search, that is an awesome tool. So like one way that we've done it, super annoying thing is that so many of our documentation pages in Confluence have Windows share links in them with all the slashes the wrong way. And then the Mac users, how do I do this? So we made a Confluence macro to convert it. And then we tell people how to do it. So they can type it here's a Windows share link, copy it, DFS space, paste the URL and hit return. It runs the macro and actually pops the connect to server window up. Open.
Oh, that's
very cool.
We're going to talk later. I like that. See, this is why I come to these things. This is great.
That's okay. So here's some other examples that I have. I tried to show off, the %S is what it replaces from the text box. GitHub is a good one that you can search directly for, anything in GitHub really. Jira we already went over. Ask Different is a Stack Exchange specific to macOS, not Apple ecosystem, not just Mac.
Who's heard of Stack Exchange before? Okay.
Oh, that's less than I was expecting.
I have great news. There's this thing called Stack Exchange. It's a website that's a question and answer tool, and if you have searched for things and needed answers and ended up with results that go to like discussions.apple.com or dell.com/support and had to read some of the responses that come there. These tools are a order of magnitude more useful. This is a place that you'll want to join. It's completely free to join. The questions are better and the answers are better, and you'll get the answers to what you need faster with this tool.
Yeah, so I use this to directly search that site, again, to try and bypass the Google results and stuff like that, because I know a lot of the answers I find on Ask Different are more what I'm looking for. And then lastly, anyone that uses auto package may know that the auto package search command right now is not always the most useful thing. So one of the recommendations that constantly comes from the community is to actually search it directly on GitHub itself. So this is one I wrote that basically puts in org:auto package and then path %s. So that way it instantly opens up GitHub to the auto package organization. So in this case, if I do, auto package space Google Chrome, it'll help me find recipes for Google Chrome, for example. All right, terminal tips. As you've heard throughout this presentation, I really like the clipboard. So pb copy and pb paste are actually commands you can run on the terminal to access the contents of your clipboard. So it's PB because it's at pasteboard, but it's the clipboard. So quick example, in this case, I generate a UUID, and rather than it going out to the terminal, me highlighting it and copying it, I can just pipe it directly into the clipboard. There's my example of me hitting Command V and it coming out, and then also showing that PB paste, it's on the clipboard and puts it out on the terminal. So a couple of data, literally I use these every day. I use AWS Secrets Manager for some things at work. So a quick way to be able to get a secret out of Secrets Manager and never have it displayed on the terminal or anything like that. You can have it go straight to your clipboard if you need it to. So this big long thing is just to get a secret out of Secrets Manager from AWS. Likewise, a lot of things these days have tokens, and a lot of the better developers will make it so that you don't even have to reveal the token. They just kind of give you the button to copy the token to clipboard kind of thing. So again, it would never be revealed on your screen. So it's on the clipboard now, and now I can update the secret up in AWS Secrets Manager without it ever being displayed on my screen, in case it's being recorded or something like that. So use this all the time.
All right, one of my favorite things that Apple's come out with recently is Touch ID, because I feel like I spend about a third of my day doing nothing but typing in passwords to get into any of those tools that were on Stream Deck buttons, for starters. But Touch ID has a way to abstract that out to simply not typing anything, but simply resting my finger on a fingerprint button. If you have a Mac laptop that was built recently, you have this already. And Apple recently has added external keyboard support, and I think with the iMac, more recent iMacs, they ship this by default. And you can also get, if you're a person who needs a 10 key, because like me, you type in IP addresses constantly, then they make that as well. And if you want to be uber cool and have the black keys, you can do that for a modest increase, because Apple. It does seem to work best with Safari and Finder. There are other things that are cool, but we're going to talk more about Touch ID in a second. Because if you live in Terminal, you are maybe doing the sudo command to elevate your privileges to do administrator level things. But again, the first thing that happens after you issue your command with sudo is it says, all right, are you somebody who's even allowed to do this? And you can sit there and type in your complex password, because your university requires a complex password. Or you can tell your computer that, hey, my Touch ID, my fingerprint, that's good enough. That's good enough for my password. So you can do this very easily by going and grabbing this particular file on the third bullet point, copying from the template into the local file, and then you go to line 3 of this one file that is not very long. You take out the first character to uncomment that line and make it active, and then you save it. And there is no step 3. But if you're a clicky keyboard person, you're somebody who has very particular preferences related to the type of hardware that you use specifically for typing, all hope is not lost. You can still do this. What we've found is the Touch ID element in the keyboard is removable, believe it or not, and there are people who have bought broken keyboards where the Touch ID still works, but some other key sticks or doesn't show up the way it's supposed to. They buy the keyboard cheap because it's really only good for parts at that point. Then they disassemble it, they take the Touch ID element out, and then they optionally 3D print or buy a 3D printed case and put that in and double stick tape it to their desk next to their fancy keyboard. And this way you get your wonderful preferred keyboard plus the ability to continually do the Touch ID for sudo or for anything else that you need to do. So one of the fun things that I've learned about in the past year.
Yeah, just on that real quick, if anyone else is Okta shop, Okta Verify, sometimes will now you can configure Okta to require biometrics. So sometimes I am this person basically. I have a nice clicky clacky keyboard, and I don't want I have a keyboard mounted under my desk or anything like that. So I'm actually probably going to be doing this within the next week or two so that I can use it with Okta Verify. Text replacement. This, if you don't know, inside system settings, you can go to keyboard and text replacement. One of the things I don't think I had a slide about is this actually, if you sign into your Mac and your iPhone, for example, with the same iCloud, these actually sync. So they come in handy, especially more on mobile than Mac, but I still find them come in handy on Mac. And kind of importantly, or recent discovery, I guess I'll say, is you can actually export and import these. So say you make a whole bunch of really cool ones for your help desk or something like that, and you want everyone to have a copy of it, you can actually export these and allow them to import them to, again, improve common phrases or whatever. It's to me, it's kind of a cheap replacement, if you will, for Text Expander, albeit a heck of a lot less on the functionality, but it still works. So a quick example, this is what the plist looks like when you export it. So if you get fancy enough, you could actually have something that generates these and adds them if you need a longer list, we'll say. And then you just import these. Again, no screenshot for it, but the import button's in the same spot as the export button. So some examples that I have, if I do an @ symbol, it inputs my personal email address. This is great for websites that 1Password doesn't understand how to autofill on and whatnot. Again, more useful on iOS than probably your Mac. Work email, same thing, w@ puts in my work email. Shrug, I really like the /shrug that Slack has, but I hate that it doesn't work anywhere other than Slack, so I just made a text replacement for it instead. Table flip, another good one in my opinion. Happy birthday, just some flourish with some emojis and stuff like that without you having to switch between the emoji picker and typing and stuff like that. PCal.
Yep, that's my personal calendar. We talked about Calendly earlier. If Calendly by itself wasn't a more efficient way to do it, responding back to an email by just simply typing PCal and getting a response back to, hey, please go to this link, handle it, send that email off. And then, when somebody gives you a request that makes you wince and say, then you give them the OMG no, and then you can move on with your life.
Some that I didn't put in here, but you can kind of see on this slide. I have one at the bottom there. My grandfather's name was Tom, T-H-O-M, but I have a friend that I play board games with who is T-O-M, and my muscle memory just cannot not type T-H-O-M. So I created a text replacement that replaces T-H-O-M with Tom. And then there's a couple other funny ones like look at disapproval, tech debt. Oh, tech debt, that's right, I got a slide for that. So fun things you can do in Slack. I actually created a blank emoji in Slack. It is literally just a 256 by 256 nothing, but it allows you to do silly things like tech debt. So anytime, this came from my previous job. Anytime someone would say something, I'm like, yep, we haven't been able to get to that. Tech debt.
Or organizationally disappointing event.
So that one got used a lot. And then likewise, I uploaded to multiple Slack instances, these giant green and white letters, so that if you really need to get the point across, you can kind of make it bold. So, bang, sorry, and you're just like, I'm sorry. So there's all sorts of ones you can do, obviously. There's also exclamation points and question marks and stuff like that. So, other interesting tips. This is actually one of the things that kind of sparked this idea for a presentation, which is reverse expand. Essentially, some of these things came from you remote into someone's desktop or you're working with them in person and you just happen to do something that you've done your entire life and they're like, whoa, what did you just do?
What is this sorcery?
Right, you're a wizard. And this is one of them, is if you ever end up on a website that doesn't have an expand all option, and you kind of have to chase the website down as every time you expand a caret, and it keeps going, and you're just like, oh, this is such a slog, because you just want to see everything at once. Yeah. So as you see, it just keeps on going. Well, my thing I did for a user once is if you start at the bottom and go up, the website doesn't run away from you anymore. You can just kind of expand all and without an expand all button.
Right.
So you just keep going, and then they're all expanded, and then you can slide through them as you need to. So you're a
when
wizard.
you come across a website like that, that's a way to
If
roll
you
through
happen to
it
come across a website.
more smoothly.
This was a community given
Community
thing.
submitted?
Yes, that I appreciated, so I added. If you go to the help menu and start typing there, there's a menu items section, and as you kind of hover over them, it'll point to where they are in the menu, which again also points to the keyboard shortcut for said thing for most of them. So yeah, you can just kind of hover over these, and it'll show you where they are, so that you don't have to go hunting for them quite as much. So I thought that was a neat little thing. So there it is. Other conceptual tips.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Documentation is absolutely the number one thing that I love about my team. They will write procedure documents, they'll write pages about here are the things that we typically buy so that I don't have to try and remember what it is and what it's called and where we got it and what it cost. They will write down what are the specific configuration steps that we do for a given event, and who are the people that are on our VIP list, and anything that's important for us to know. We make sure that we've captured that so that everybody can go do things like come to a conference or go on vacation or, God forbid, have a sick day. We know what all those things are. So the number one recommendation I can make for a team that's not already doing it is just start writing things down. I have a different talk that I've given in the past about documentation, and I think it's called Documentation. We should write this down somewhere. And you can feel free to find that on YouTube. I'll point to my previous self. But the more important thing is not just to write it down, but to make sure that that's in a place that other people can see it, and even better, if you can do it, someplace where other people can edit it. A wiki is a natural kind of tool that allows for this. Think of it as web pages that you can click a button and they turn into a document that you can make edits on and click save, and then that web page becomes available to everyone else on your team. That makes life so much easier. Starting that is the first step, having the tool. The second step, that sometimes is a little harder with teams that may not be used to this yet, is to let them know, hey, this is not here necessarily just for you to read and follow. It's also here for you to improve. If you have an idea or a suggestion, or these two things are out of order, it's perfectly okay for you to click edit, make the change, and go back. Many wiki systems or other collaborative tools like this allow you that if somebody makes a mistake or sneezes and presses the delete key and nukes the whole page and presses save for some reason, malicious or not, you have the ability to roll that back and get back to what the document looked like before. This tooling has saved us so much time and frustration and hassle, especially for the things that you only do every 8 months or every 18 months, where you can't quite remember what the procedure was for this, but you remember there was like 3 important details. This saves you from having to rack your brain to try and remember those or to relearn them yet again. Really helps you out. There's also a website called goblin.tools. If you are neurospicy like I am and you want to make sure that you are saying what you intend to say in the right way, and I'm hearing that there might be others that have this, you can paste in what you want to say and it will tell you, hey, yeah, maybe don't send that. That could be what we call a CLM, a career limiting move. So this is a tool that will give you suggestions. It also has wonderful other components, including my favorite is Chef, where you can write in, these are the ingredients I have, what can I make for dinner? So if you don't feel like running out to the grocery store, that helps a lot. I highly recommend the formalizer as well. So if you want to write what you're really feeling, but you want it to come across in a nicer way, that will make sure that you express your intention without necessarily being as blunt as you might otherwise be.
I use this a lot.
So I will also say that there are physical tools that you can buy that make life a lot easier, and I have a small collection of those. Some are very, very inexpensive, some are less inexpensive, but they're all things that I recommend and I think are worth time and attention and definitely worthy of being mentioned. I would say the most important thing is to make sure that your computer fits you, and fits you not only physically, but fits the way your brain works and the way you like to work. I am officially here, my name's Dennis Wurster, and I'm giving you permission and your boss the authority to approve whatever keyboard, whatever input device, whatever touch device, whatever pointing device fits you best. These are not expensive items, they're durable, they're a one-time purchase, there isn't a subscription involved, and they make you a more effective worker. It's really a wonderful ROI. So I want you to know that it's perfectly okay to look for the clicky keyboard, to look for the keyboard that doesn't click as much, to look for the low-profile keyboard, to look for the keyboard that glows in the dark or that has RGB lights, or whatever makes you happy, that's a way to do it. We have professors, I'm at a school of music, one of the things that we have to do is have keyboards, not the kind with QWERTY keys, but the kind with black and white piano keys. And we have people that want weighted keys, and we have people that don't care about that. We have others that want ones that are this many keys or this many keys. That's fine. We have guitarists who have their sheet music on an iPad and use an app, and to turn the page, you literally have a Bluetooth foot pedal that flips the page because both of your hands are busy. No problem, we will order that for you, but find what works best for you in your environment, and that is a great way to enhance your own productivity. It's okay to I won't say treat yourself, but to buy the more appropriate thing. You don't have to slum it with whatever has been returned from people who have left the organization. In the same vein, you can also have my permission to buy the best output peripheral. Buy the printer that you need, buy the monitor that you need. Go for the single big monitor, go for the smaller monitors if you want. If you are somebody who has a vision impairment and needs something with high resolution, there are large e-ink monitors now that you can get that are available. They're relatively new, but they work fine. Refresh rate, as you might expect, not their best attribute, but it's worth it. If you need a tool to help you do window management, and we're going to talk more about one of those in a moment, this is a great way to, again, have a button that immediately puts all of your apps in the right place and tiles them so that you can see everything you need to see all at once. If you need a headset, get the wireless one. Keep your hands free. That allows you to walk around the office and check on things while you're on a call with someone. And if you have the ability to get things that also allow for noise canceling, that allows you to block out the air conditioning or other noises that might be nearby.
Yep. Where'd the
We
catch
have
box
a
end up?
comment from the audience. We're going to try and move the catch box up here to the second row if we can. This way, Rob, right up here.
Ooh, boy.
Very good. Good morning.
Good morning. One budget-friendly option in
Go ahead.
terms of monitors due to a couple of detached retinas I've had in consecutive years. My
Okay.
vision's not as good as it used to be. And so at my desk, my monitor is a single 43-inch low-cost 4K TV.
Yes.
You know, if I were to try and get something like that in an actual
It'd be
monitor,
2 or 3 times the price.
it was easily 3 times the price. So going on Amazon nowadays, $200, 43-inch TV that will do everything I need as a monitor, and it works great, and it's much more budget friendly and appealing to the bean counters.
Yes, I've helped clients implement that, clients that were financially constrained, implement a very similar procedure when they did an upgrade, and I was amazed at how well that actually worked, and I can second that. Even the smallest 4K TV you can find is going to be immensely less expensive. All right, moving on to tools.
I got one tidbit on that.
Okay.
I actually treated myself to a 49-inch ultra wide, and when you actually look at the math on two 27 inches side by side and the cost of those and stuff like that for like a good quality one, I actually found it was a lot it wasn't a huge uptick to go to that 49-inch single display, and you get rid of the bezel and stuff like that. So again, I have used that thing for the last 3 years, and I probably use it more than my actual television in my living room. So something to consider is like, it may be an expensive purchase, but consider how much you sit at your computer all day, at least 8 hours a day, if that's
Right.
you. Some of us are workaholics, but it really is worth it. I highly recommend it.
Yes, spend the money where you spend your time.
Yep. All right, this is going to be a little bit of gauntlet.
right,
I got
speed
some
round.
Speed round. Well, we might slow it down because we're actually talking faster than we thought we would be. So highly recommended tools. First one is Mist. There's Mist, which is a GUI version, and Mist CLI, which is a command line version. It helps you get the latest installers and firmwares of macOS. It's made by a great guy from Aussie, or Australia. He's an Aussie from Australia. He also makes another really great tool called Low Profile. This is great for investigating what profiles are already on the machine. So that way you don't have to click through 6 menus in the system settings to try and find the profiles anymore. Plus it gives you a heck of a lot more details and different views of the profiles that are on the machine. I just realized we didn't put QR codes on here for these.
That's okay. It'll be fine.
Another favorite, the Mac Evaluation Utility. This one's actually from Apple themselves. This is great if you happen to be in a restricted network that you have to constantly battle with the network administrators about why I can't manage my Macs because they can't talk to certain services. So this is a tool from Apple that'll actually do currently 389 tests to make sure that the Mac you run it on can communicate with the services that are required to manage a Mac. So if you get a whole bunch of red X's on this, it's a great way to take a report and take it to the network admin team, and hopefully that's a little extra help to be like, look, I need these to be available, to my machines.
And it's not just you saying, it's Apple saying it.
Correct. There is definitely something to be said about this being released by Apple and not a community tool. Like it is, it helps add a little more credibility to it that this isn't just me complaining. This is a thing. Another one, I came up in my career in computer labs, and I started out as a Windows admin, so many of you may know about BG Info on the Windows side of things. This is a great tool by Fraser Hess. Sorry if I pronounce anyone's name wrong. But it puts a whole bunch of information on your desktop. Again, great for lab environments, also great for users to help them find information faster when they open a ticket or call your support desk. I think this is literally, I turned on every option you can turn on, but this is selectable. Like you can put as much or as little of this information on the desktop as you want. There is a companion CLI that allows you to get a lot of the same information if you do some scripting. And there is the ability to mass deploy it to computer labs, for example. Great tool. One extra shout out here is there is a particulars channel in the Mac admin Slack where the developer is in there and he takes feedback, so great stuff. DFU Blaster, this one is actually by Tim Perfit from Two Canoes. You'll see him around in a lab coat this week. He's got the little RFID tags. Basically, there's 2 tools for this that I want to talk about, but any of you have to do the 6-finger death punch thing to try and get a thing.
If you want to do finger yoga every morning.
Yeah. So this, you still need to put the USB cable in the correct ports and stuff like that, but now all you have to do is click a button and boom, the remote Mac just goes into DFU mode. And likewise, there's a button to also reboot it if you need to. And then, again, I'm a command line guy, so there's also a Mac VDM tool. These are words I just learned while investigating this. It uses power delivery vendor-defined messages over the USB cable, and that's what puts it in the DFU mode. Beyond that, I have no idea how it works. Frogger, I hope, isn't in the room because he'd probably go on about it. This one's, it's the same thing. I just do Mac VDM DFU and press enter, and the Mac next to me instantly turns off and goes in the DFU mode. Annoyingly, in Sonoma, it now pops up the Finder window trying to help me restore it, which is really annoying. I need to open feedback on that. Sorry, Eric. And likewise, this also has the reboot command. So again, a lot simpler than having to figure it out and time it and stuff like that. Extra note, if you have Apple Configurator on your machine to restore IPSWs, I think it's IPSWs, I also have, that's the next command. So I'll do Mac VDM DFU, and then the next command is CFG util, and then the path to the IPSW, so I can quickly put a new image on my test Mac kind of thing. So it really speeds up I really do miss the days of Deploy Studio, but yeah, it really does speed up the, I get a whole bunch of head shakes now. It does speed up the restore process. If there is EEX, erase all contents and settings, but this is really great if you're flipping a test device between different OSs and stuff like that. Apparency, this gives you metadata about your apps, tells you things about like, is it signed, who's it signed by. This really helps with getting team identifiers for building privacy profiles and stuff like that. Tells you if it's notarized, so on and so forth. Same company by Randy, Suspicious Package. This one is another really great tool. It tells you details about the package itself. Is it signed? Is it notarized? Is the ticket stapled to the package? But also you can actually investigate the files that it's going to install. I don't have multiple screenshots here, but like you can kind of see the tabs. There's all the files. It'll go through the install scripts that the package has.
The pre-install and post-install scripts, you can see how good the company is by how well they write those scripts. I've been to several of Greg Nagel's sessions where he completely tears apart the company saying, this makes no sense, they should not be doing it this way. But it allows you to see what is actually happening before the files get put where they're supposed to be put and after. So you can understand better what's happening there.
Spoiler alert, most of them are terrible. iMazing Profile Editor. There's actually another version of this. I think it's Profile Creator, but it uses some schemas that are out there and updated by the community to help you build profiles. There's a lot in this space that I need to follow up on because now Apple actually puts out their own schema for profiles and stuff like that for device management. But yeah, great tool to help you, if you're more of a GUI person, a point and click and whatnot, this really will help you artisanally craft profiles if your MDM doesn't have what you need natively. So instead you can artisanally craft it yourself. Great tool to help with that. Rectangle or Rectangle Pro. Rectangle being the free version, Rectangle Pro being, I believe, a $10 upgrade. I've had this for like 5 years, I want to say now. But as Dennis was alluding to earlier, like one of the things I have, again, 49-inch monitor, I now press a keyboard combination and it throws all of my communication and collaboration windows to exactly where I want them across the screen, which is really helpful if like you unplug it and then they all shuffle around on you and then you plug it back in and you can just hit a keyboard combination or
Restore them.
Or a Stream Deck button and it'll restore them to exactly where you want them. There's all sorts of stuff that are available, especially in the Pro version. I know this is being kind of Sherlocked by Mumble. But there are still additional advanced features in Rectangle Pro that are not being Sherlocked. Mac Tracker.
Yeah, Mac Tracker is one of the tools that I use. I treat it as a authoritative source of information about Macs. Many times people will come to us with an older machine and we don't necessarily know just by looking at it, is this going to run the next version of the OS? We're trying to make sure that we are on the latest security updates, and as we are aware, security updates, you will definitely get them with the latest, and you may get them with the previous, and after that, it's a roll of the dice whether you're going to get the patches or not. This tool gives us all kinds of information about a given machine. It lists everything that Apple has ever made, going back to the Apple IIs, and it has lots and lots of information. It is, I do have a button for this one, and it allows me to jump in and see lots and lots of detail about what the model identifier is. These are all things that we end up putting into our inventory system, so this gives me an authoritative way to look for these pieces of information. Like I said, it answers a lot of good questions for us, you know, what the official name is, what kind of ports did this type of device have, what is that model identifier or the order number for North America. It's all there, and we can jump in and see things like what is the maximum OS this will run, and it will tell you. And if it's got an older version there, you know, all right, this is something that we probably need to prune from the fleet because its service is over for our purposes. But, so it's not just about the tooling that you use, it can also be about what does your office environment look like and what kind of tools do you use for that. This is one of my favorite things that I learned about here at this conference a few years ago. These are Post-it notes where, much like original Post-it notes, had a very thin stripe of adhesive on the back, and that's great, but then they tend to curl up, and then it's very easy to knock them off of whatever you have them stuck to. This is the inverse of that. This is 90% of it is adhesive, and only 10% of it is not, and they stay nicely flat against whatever you need to put them on. So when you need to label something and then put it in a stack with other stuff, you don't have to worry about it flaking off. These are inexpensive, they are way better than the original version, and they're a tool that I highly recommend. Like I said, not all of these are tremendously expensive. Definitely an upgrade over the original version. We also make use of a portable label maker. So if you want to label things and want them all to look reasonably professional, this is a cheap way to make things look good, to make sure that your labels are consistent, to make sure that you are not relying on somebody's good handwriting to make things look good. And you can get big thick tapes, you can get little tapes, you can get tapes that print black on transparent, or black on white, or black on yellow, or white on black. You have lots of different options. A great tool that's inexpensive and really helps things.
This, by
move
the
along.
way, is the only printer I will endorse. Label printers.
And that's saying something. And last but not least, stupid cheap Velcro cable ties. These are wonderful. I keep them on my person because you never know when you're going to need to try and tie something up. It makes cable knotting a thing of the past because you can just tie them all together and lash them. And it's super inexpensive. It does exactly what it's supposed to do. It doesn't cost a lot, and it very little else will do what this does. And Robert has a suggestion from the back. If we could throw the
things at
catch
Robert.
box. Yes.
Oh.
Close. Not bad for over the shoulder.
For awareness, Uline will sell you a giant roll of the hook loop tape that you can cut to whatever length you need. I prefer that over these because it's...
Sometimes you've got a big, long coil of stuff that's going to make a very large cross-section, and you need that. So yes, Robert says go to Uline, which is an office supply catalog, and you can get a spool of strip. Those are very good. The only advantage these have is they have the ability to be tied directly on the cable, but, potato.
Yeah, don't use zip ties, come on.
Oh, yes, please.
So swinging back to the other end of the spectrum, this is more expensive, but it is a tool that I winced when I saw the price, but I am now thoroughly converted into using this tool. The Eastman School of Music is in downtown Rochester. The rest of the University of Rochester is a few miles away, so we are kind of like the outpost of the university system. And consequently, when we have network issues, people have to roll a truck and come and find us, and then go to the room where the problem is, and then figure out what they need to know about it. This tool prevents them having to roll a truck, and it allows me to go to a particular room, plug it in, and get important information merely by clicking two buttons, and one of those is the power button. So it's an authoritative set of answers. I get them very, very quickly. I can screenshot whatever's there on my phone, or I can save it and transfer it in a report later on. The battery on it lasts forever. I probably charge it twice a year, maybe. And we use it all the time, and every time I use it, it's a complete pleasure to use. So the type of results we get back, I plugged it in at my workbench where I've got a local network port. It allows me to see which switch this particular port in the wall is connected to, and not only that, but which port on the switch it's connected to. It tells me, here's how fast you should be able to expect to move data through this line. It tells me if it was an external, and I was pinging Google's DNS servers, how quickly can I get a ping back? It's a fantastic tool. I get this within 10 seconds. It will also do things like if the port has power over Ethernet on it, it will tell me how many milliwatts of power is it capable of providing, so I know what I can reasonably expect to be able to plug into it. It really just unlocks lots of hidden information that would otherwise take much more time to get. So while it is more expensive, I do highly recommend it. What does Ferris Bueller say? If you have the means, I highly recommend it. So you get, again, additional information, not only about the switch, but you get information about which version of the OS the switch is running, lots and lots of data, which VLAN is this port on, fantastic levels of stuff. I'm just thoroughly satisfied with that purchase. It is not the cheapest, but it's, 2 MacBooks, right?
We got
It is a lot of Velcro. Some of these things are easier to sell to your managers than others, I admit.
Education discounts help.
That's true. I think with education, we were down to around $1,000 with that, so which made it far easier.
Yeah, I was just gonna, like, I have one at work. I adopted it from whoever was there before me. They're great. Yeah, the one I have, it's a little more expensive, but it can actually find APs. So if you have troublesome devices, and I work at a school, so students bring all kinds of crap. It's
Of
nice
course.
to find out where that stuff is, and you can track it down. So I +1 for the
Okay.
expensive network scanner.
Glad to know I'm not the only one. Yeah.
All right, we have a couple honorable mentions. This one I don't have a ton of experience with, but I know it exists. Hammerspoon is a bridge between macOS APIs and a Lua scripting engine. So this is my only example that I've used it for. It might be hard to see, but basically I hit a keyboard shortcut, and what it does is whatever my active window is, it resizes it to a set dimension and puts it in the center of the screen. And this is really amazing for taking screenshots for documentation, because that means every screenshot is going to be the exact size window, so on and so forth. I am very big on like consistency and pretty screenshots and stuff like that. So this helped, I forget what exactly the project was, but I had to take like 30 screenshots, and I got annoyed when the window was like 4 pixels to the left kind of thing. So I wrote this and again, puts it right in the center of the screen, resizes it so that you can still see the desktop background kind of thing. But there's a lot to unlock here. There's a lot of developers that do Lua scripting and stuff like that, and there's a ton of examples out on the internet that obviously are a lot more complex than this, but highly recommend checking out Hammerspoon. Another shout out is Awesome Mac Admin Tools. This is something on Dr. K's GitHub. This is something that I recently just learned about and actually need to
Yeah, me
open
too.
a ton of pull requests and update the list. There's some outdated stuff on there now and some stuff that is clearly missing, so that's probably a next week thing I have to work on. But highly recommend checking out this, because everything I have in my presentation is either already on there or will soon be on there, because I'm going to add them, unless you beat me to it. Like, pull requests are open, I heard. So that's another really great one. And we're actually doing okay, so.
Yes. We have time for questions and discussion.
Right on cue.
So it's not just about what we think is awesome, it's all about what you think is awesome too. So if anybody has a tip or a tool that they want to rave about, we are definitely here to hear it. One of the challenges that we have when we were coming up with this is we don't know how much of this is really, really common knowledge and how much of it isn't. So we're here to learn just as much as you are. And let's hear what we've got,
One
please.
second.
Number one.
Oh, hold on. Well, I do want to point out, please, in a minute we're going to have the feedback link up. I would really highly appreciate your feedback on what things were cool to learn, like skip next time. I kind of want to make this an evergreen presentation, because as we asked at the beginning, how many of you, this is your first time here, we're learning that every year there's new people that come to this conference. So we're kind of hoping that this improves and is kind of repeatable. So please do the feedback.
So in terms of screenshots, like you were saying, if you're in your screenshot window and you have like the crosshairs,
Yes.
if you press the space bar, it allows you to click the window that you want to take a screenshot of and like make a transparent background, make it look nice,
Yes.
Yes.
and do that. So
That's true. I used that exact trick on a few different slides here. It's it keeps you from having to try and squint and get every pixel for that window. Pressing the space bar turns your crosshair into a little, well, it used to be a camera icon.
Yeah.
And then you hover over the window and it selects with a different color, and you press the mouse click to capture it, and then you can either paste it wherever you want or grab it from a file.
Yeah, that's my, I didn't mention it, but yes, that's exactly how I take 98% of my screenshots.
Right.
Another shout out there too is there are some defaults, right? Some plist options you can set to change things like the file name that it saves to. You can turn off the drop shadow. So there's a lot of really cool, more advanced things.
And the file
you can do.
type as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can change if you Google it. You can find customizations to screenshotting that are really advanced. Another one too is if you are in the crosshair and you're trying to select something. I forget which keyboard button it is, but like you can hold a certain key and it'll actually kind of lock the aspect ratio.
The dimensions.
Right,
Yeah.
so you can make it scale in a perfect square, you can make it go just horizontal or just vertical, so there's all sorts of, I recommend playing with it. There's a couple of like option, command, whatever, that helps you take better screenshots.
Right, and it also improves your finger flexibility.
Finger yoga.
Anyone else with other tips or ideas or things they absolutely love that they want all of us to know about?
I'm dreading having to throw this. So for me, one thing that I've started using recently is like a spotlight replacement.
Okay.
The spotlight's nice, but I've been using, it's this newer app called Monarch Launcher.
Okay.
You could do a lot of different things from within the launcher. So it opens up the same kind of way, but you can directly pull system settings up like profiles, security and privacy, mouse, set audio devices. It's just a lot fewer clicks to have to go through for things, especially if you have to change or view things with somewhat frequency. It also has like notes, I'm blanking, calculator, clipboard history that you can turn on and off. But it's great. I would suggest
Clipboard
checking
history.
that out, or even something like Alfred.
Oh,
I know there's
yeah.
a bunch of other ones, but that's just the one that I've been using.
That
Right.
was actually an honorable mention I forgot to add to this. Is I know there are a ton of clipboard managers out there. I've tried them and like it just wasn't for me. But that is something else to potentially investigate. Is things that help you manage multiple things on the clipboard, or multiple
Or a stack of things.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I know they exist, so I just never use them. So yes, clipboard managers are another thing.
So the name of that was Monarch.
Monarch Launcher.
Monarch Launcher.
It's like 0.6, so it's new, like as of February.
Okay.
But the guy, he's actively developing it. He's pretty active on Discord and takes a lot of feedback.
Okay.
And up until version, I feel like I'm plugging this guy. Up until like version 1.0, it's on sale for like $20 for a lifetime license. So if you do like it, you can get in kind of early before whatever pricing happens. But I really enjoy it.
All right.
I was going to say, to follow up on the clipboard manager thing, I also don't use those. I tend to use like Bitwarden in my browser, and I hate I hate not being able to block my password manager from also getting scooped up by clipboards, which is why I don't use them like flat out. I don't know if anybody else has like workarounds for that. I'd be totally happy to hear them, because otherwise I would totally use one. But
Okay. Well, if anybody has ideas about that or other things that they love or want to share, we can certainly keep trying that. We have 8 minutes left, so there's plenty of time.
So this is something that's on every device for Apple, but
Okay.
a lot of people don't use it. But there's a little microphone button on your keyboard, and there's a little microphone button at the bottom of the keyboard on iOS. And I'm terrible typing my thoughts, but I can speak them all out, and the text, the speech to text on that is excellent, and it works offline. Because I've done this like in the woods one night when I was backpacking. Anyway, long story. We're not going to go into that. But you can do everything in there, and it's very accurate. And then later, use yourself as your language model and fix it before you send it, and it just has all your thoughts. It's wonderful. Just I don't see a lot of people
Yes.
using it. So
Dictation tools are an amazing feat of engineering that Apple has managed to pull off to make it so good.
I will say, we didn't mention it, but Dennis is a pretty heavy user of dictation, and I've heard him say things like new paragraph, and like I didn't know that dictation could do new paragraph, or I use the comma and the period and stuff, but like I've heard him dictate some things that were like, I didn't know you could do that. So.
That's why we're here. Yes, please.
So I use this
What?
application called MindNode Pro. I've been
Okay,
using it
MindNode Pro.
for many years, just for brainstorming, whether it's documentation or any thoughts or ideas that I'm working on.
Right.
I usually just start with that and then throw it out. Nobody really sees it.
Okay, and so that's a tool for taking ideas and then figuring out how they relate to each other, and then
Exactly.
organizing
moving
that.
around.
Okay, just as a tool for self-organization and mental clarity.
Exactly.
Okay.
There
cool.
was, that's the wrong desktop. I'm going to pick a slide real quick. There was one we took out because we were running low on time, but there's another one I like called Tot. Let's see, unskip slide and play. Hey, there it is, Tot. This one's really cool because it can sit up in your menu bar, and I have it on a keyboard shortcut again, but it's really great for just putting in plain text stuff. Like I put serial numbers in it temporarily, quick links, stuff like that. There's like, you can kind of see there's little circles at the top, so like you can have different categories for things. The macOS version is free, I believe, but it is paid if you want it to sync to your iOS devices, for example. But I use this literally every day, all day. I put things in there and it's easy to kind of, this is probably what a clipboard manager would help me with, but instead I use Tot. So another great tool for a quick mention.
Anyone else with ideas or thoughts or products they absolutely love that we need to know about? Yes, right over here. We have somebody right here in the aisle. If we could get the catch box over to them.
Oh, wow, yeah.
That's okay.
That's why it's soft.
I
It's
guess
okay.
my question is, does anybody use Automator? I kind of been looking, okay, does anybody use Automator? I saw the title, I figured, well, maybe you'll touch on that. And I've just kind of been looking at it and trying to get it to figure out to do a couple of things. I wonder if you have any thoughts on
Right.
Automator and is anybody doing anything with it?
Automator comes from, it's kind of the descendant of a scripting language that Apple made in the late 80s called AppleScript. And Automator was a way to kind of wrap that in sort of a graphical user interface so that you could grab individual pieces. And I think Shortcuts is kind of the descendant of Automator. I believe Automator still exists. I don't know how supported it is anymore, but it's something that I tried a long time ago, haven't used very much, but are there anyone else here who's actively using it that can talk about it or can find this person after the session?
Yeah, likewise, I would say that Shortcuts is the current favorite child, if you will. So I have not played with Automator. I also have tried to avoid AppleScript myself. But as you saw, I've been playing more and more with Shortcuts, and it's very clear that Apple has been putting more of their efforts into Shortcuts recently.
But all hope is not lost. I would say if you don't already live in the macadmin Slack, going to macadmins.org and signing up for a free account and joining the conversation there and mentioning what you want to learn about or what you want to know more about. The Slack is filled with thousands of wonderful, friendly people who want to share what they know and what they love. And if there is another Automator person or somebody who knows more about it or who to talk to, then this is a great resource for that.
He looks like he's got it.
Are you volunteering? You want?
Okay, we've got another toss. 4 minutes to go.
Okay, Automator is being succeeded by Shortcuts. On the Mac, one of the good things about Shortcuts is you can use things like Shell and AppleScript, because the downside of Shortcuts is if a dev doesn't choose to let you do something with the shortcut, you can't do it.
So they have to expose that functionality.
Right, so for
to
example,
Shortcuts.
Pages has 3 shortcuts. Basically, open a document, close a document. It's Apple's support for shortcuts is very hit and miss. If the app has an AppleScript dictionary, you can use AppleScript or JavaScript to automate things within that app at a far greater level. Apple's very hit and miss on how they feel about that, but for example, you can do a lot in Pages, in the entire iWork suite, with AppleScript that you can't touch with Shortcuts, Automator, or anything else. People have opinions on the syntax. It's not really bad. There's some good tools out there, Script Debugger, which actually lets you write very complicated scripts and debug them properly. But the problem with Shortcuts is, and Automator is the same way with Automator actions, if the dev doesn't give you an action or a shortcut, you can't do anything outside of that. So the AppleScript option or the Shell script option in Shortcuts lets you go a little bit beyond that. But again, it depends on how the developer feels like supporting it, and if they don't,
That can be a challenge. It does require buy-in from all parties, the manufacturer, the developer, and the user, in order to develop something worth using.
Apple could actually dog food their own work much better than they do.
That's
a different month.
That's a different presentation.
All right, there are only 2 minutes left, so I'm going to cut us off so you guys can get out of here. But thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for showing up.
Yes, thank you.
Please fill out the feedback. Thank you. And have a great conference.
Yeah.